On today's featured show, we have a few different news segments, very long podcasts, so grab your popcorn, lads, but this one's extremely interesting. We have Kieran Cuckoldry at the end talking for a few minutes to ministers and people from the mainstream media about immigration. First of all, we have the Social Democrats here. We have Holly Cairns, whatever her name is, accusing the government of leaning into toxic far-right narratives about the international protection applicants, okay? Depicting IPAS applicants as scammers gaming a lax system is now a deliberate strategy. 100% they are gaming the system. People are coming from third world countries that they have a grand living, they're not in any sense of danger, they just have a shithole country because they haven't built it themselves, and they're coming here for monetary reasons, guys. I think 80% of people coming here are not coming from war-torn places, they're just coming from desperate countries and they want to make more money. It's all for monetary gain. Let's listen to what Holly Cairns says about it.
The government now has a deliberate strategy of depicting international protection applicants as scammers gaming a lax system. This is not leadership. This is leaning into a toxic far-right narrative. The government can't stoke fear in one breath, then condemn attacks in another breath, and then actually come in here and seek credit for doing that. Minister, the Social Democrats have been pleading with the government for weeks to moderate your language, to ensure that what you're saying is accurate and the tensions aren't further inflamed.
So of course, Simon Harris and Micheál Martin both said that the immigrant numbers are too high coming over here.
Instead, the inflammatory language from government has increased. Shamefully, the Taoiseach chose to amplify half-truths to paint migrants in a negative light. He made those comments fully conscious of the volatile atmosphere that is out there. It's not just irresponsible, it's reprehensible.
Yeah, it's irresponsible to tell the truth. These people are idiots. The Social Democrats. Bro, the Social Democrats, any left-wing party, are a complete joke, guys. What do you mean it's flipping, it's unresponsible? Like, guys, everyone knows that immigration is too high in Ireland. We have hundreds of thousands of people coming here. The country and the landscape has completely changed. There's barely any flipping Irish people left. The country is going down the tubes because we have no leadership. We have no jobs, no experience. Everyone's leaving to Australia. Everyone's leaving to Canada. Everyone's going everywhere else apart from staying in the country to actually help build the country. It's a disaster. We have a disaster country. The immigration policies are the number one thing that ruined it.
Now we see where rising hate naturally leads. A man pouring petrol on the stairs of an IPAS centre in the hopes of burning women and children alive.
Well, we don't know actually what happened in that case, guys. We actually don't know what happened. Okay, that could be a complete psyop. I made a full video about that. Go back and check it out. Very strange. He was wearing socks, like he wasn't wearing shoes. There was no footage of this guy coming in or leaving. There was also a door that's heavily monitored by security and a security check and a flipping code as well, that he was able to get the code and enter the property. So very strange. It almost seems like a bit of an inside attack. Who the hell knows? I'm just speculating. I don't flipping know what happened there.
This horrific event isn't enough to prompt the government to engage in some reflection, then I don't know what is. The government now has a deliberate strategy of depicting international protection applicants as scammers gaming a lax system. This is not leadership. This is leaning into a toxic far-right narrative. People have a right to come here and to make an application for international protection, and the government has a duty to assess those claims fairly.
To respond.
Minister, will the government show leadership on this issue and deliver that clear and unambiguous message?
I would just stop your bollocks. That Holly lady is just a scourge, lads. Oh my God.
I reject that completely. I think if you listen to what I've said, I reject the politics of the far right, of Farage, of anyone who provides an inflammatory response or weaponises this issue to divide people. Our focus is on...
Like myself, guys, we're on the far right over here. Come join us. Come join us on the far right. I mean, this guy is a clown. He looks like Quagmire. Like, does anyone notice that this guy looks like Quagmire at a Family Guy?
A community is on building harmony between people and supporting and investing in communities, whilst also ensuring we have a migration system and policy which works. And I'm disgusted, as everyone is, with what has happened.
Giggity, giggity. Speaking of these IPAS people gaming a lax system, look at this news story that just came out. Taxpayer foots bill for over 15 million worth of incorrect social welfare payments. So people in Ireland are getting incorrect social welfare payments. They're paying people too high of social welfare. They said that most of these immigrants coming in, they're all on social welfare. They don't speak English. They don't have any contributing to Irish society. how the hell are they even here? Like, if you don't contribute to Irish society, if you're not making money and from a workplace and spending the money in the country, how the hell are you even, contributing to the country? This is a joke. This is an absolute joke. This country is finished if we don't wake up soon. Of course, the immigrants coming in as well is causing a stress on the healthcare system. It says here the HSE has confirmed over 700,000 planned procedures for patients this year were cancelled. Okay, were cancelled. It said that appointments and procedures are often rescheduled within a short period of the original appointment. So they don't know what's going on. The flipping healthcare system is clogged up with people from God knows where. Just a bizarre thing, guys. Like, we just see that people are, and it's not just the people where they're coming from, it's like the numbers of people, guys. I've talked about this before. The most important thing about immigration is the numbers of people. I don't really care about race, religion, background. A lot of people on the right do talk about that, nationalists, ethno-nationalists. They care about like being 100% Irish, that kind of thing. Okay, fair enough. Maybe down the road if you want that, okay? But at the minute, guys, we want to convert people that are more right-leaning. We want to get people away from this woke LGBT bullshit agenda. We want to bring people over to the right-leaning movement. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to wake people up. But we're going to see in this next segment, guys, this next segment with Kieran Cuckoldry, that they actually don't even want to talk about the numbers of people. They completely disregard that. And that is the most important thing to talk about when it comes to immigration.
7 children were among a group of 52 people deported to Georgia last night on a chartered flight out of Dublin Airport. It is the 6th deportation operation so far this year as the government clamps down on failed asylum applications. But is the coalition now shifting to the right in immigration itself, with the Taoiseach saying migration numbers are now too high? Joining me to discuss this are Fianna Fáil Minister of State Timmy Dooley, Sinn Féin TD and spokesperson on justice and migration Matt Carthy, and Nick Clifford, special correspondent with the Irish Examiner. You can send us your comments. Simply scan the QR code or contact us via the WhatsApp number. Timmy, do you agree with Simon Harris that the numbers are too high?
Well, the reality is people come and they seek asylum. And what every state needs to have is a system that works. And a system that works is based on rules. You reach the threshold or the criteria and you're accepted and you're afforded asylum if that's the case. If you don't reach the threshold, you don't comply with the rules that are set out by the state that are in line with international conventions, then you're not granted asylum.
I don't think we should grant anybody asylum. The only people that I care about is the people in my own country, Irish citizens, people with passports. Everybody else, I don't care about. I know there's people getting murdered in East Nigeria. There's people getting murdered in other countries in the Middle East. Absolutely, I feel empathy for these people. But I can only logically care about the people in my own country. That's it, guys. And the Irish government should only care about people in our own country. We're not a superpower like the US or any of these other countries that take care of the world, like the world's police, and they bring in asylum seekers. We're not like that, guys. Okay, Ireland is not like that.
Process of appeals, etc. And any system worth its weight in salt has to have the capacity to assist people in their return or ask them to return. If that doesn't happen, then you've got to go to the more extreme situation of issuing a deportation order. And of course, that then does require, if it's to be a functioning system, fit for purpose, that you have to take action like what has been taken last night and on a number of occasions this year and previously as well. Now, I know that's difficult. It's difficult for all of us because you're dealing with human stories. In many cases, you're dealing with people who saw the asylum process, but, maybe didn't feel that they complied with it, but they had a shot. Irish people have done that too. We've travelled to other countries. We've found ways around the system. We were economic migrants in many cases. And many of our friends in our communities found themselves returned or deported, particularly from the United States.
I'm not sure you've answered the question. Do you agree with Simon Harris that the numbers are too high?
I think it's not about the number being too high. It's about, are you in a position to process those that show up? Just because a number breaches a certain thing and puts pressure on the state, saying whether it's too high or too low is irrelevant.
So that guy right there is low IQ. We actually have people elected into this country that are actually low IQ. No offense to them. I'm just stating facts right here. The most important thing is the numbers. He said right there, guys, whether it's high or low, it's irrelevant. Simon Harris, the leader, these guys, they're stupid as well. They're low IQ, but they're a little bit more educated. This guy obviously, can't even speak English properly, but it is 100% correct to say the numbers are too high. It's the most important thing when it comes to immigration worldwide. It's actually pretty much the only thing they should care about, really.
About understanding how we have
Why
a
did he
functioning
say it
system.
then? Why has
I
he
don't
come out and
know.
said this?
I don't know.
And double down on it, and
don't
he's
know.
got his Fine Gael colleagues backing him up. I appreciate you're not Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil, but he's got his Fine Gael colleagues backing him up. He even went so far as to suggest that there are people who are trying to shut down a debate and a discussion about
No, I
migration
think there
into
is.
this country.
I would agree with this. There are people who I would meet who would say they're concerned to the point where a system has to be appropriate and functioning, and that you're then in a position for those who do gain asylum, that you're able to give them the appropriate services that they deserve, quite frankly, and that you're able to accommodate them and you're able to manage through it. The one thing that there is a problem with is housing right across the state. And the more that come to seek asylum, the more pressure it puts on that system.
So he just admitted it himself. He just literally admitted it himself that housing is caused by too many immigrants. Everybody knows this. This is just basic stuff. Why they don't want to say it, I don't know. It's like they're pressured by the Sinn Féin. They're obviously woke left in the Sinn Féin movement, but crazy stuff. These people are just really scared to even speak their mind. You know, the first question, is Simon Harris correct? 100% yes, he's correct. That's it. Next question.
The truism. And I think people accept that. And there are many people who would reflect on that and say, well, I don't want to speak out about it because I will be branded as right-wing, which of course is not the case. You can talk about the pressures on the system, but you must recognise that people, they're all humans, they show up with different motivation. I think
Guys, I don't care. Call me right-wing, call me anything. I literally don't even care. These people are such pansies in government. Oh, I'm afraid to be called right-wing. I'm afraid to be called racist or homophobic or transphobic or heterophobic. Like, guys, I don't give a shit. It's just names. They're so emotional. I don't give a bollocks, guys. Okay, call me what you want. You know, it doesn't matter to me. Like, just speak the truth. The truth and facts are what matter. In Ireland, we're still 20 years behind all this stuff. I mean, they're still so stupid here.
we have to try to do more efficiently, and I think we're certainly getting there, is that the process works well, that those that unfortunately from their perspective don't meet the threshold, that they're assisted, treated in absolute, in a humane way. But we have to be, as well as being fair, we also need to be firm.
It's funny though you mentioned, people getting accused of being racist. About 2 years ago, just under 2 years ago, the Rural Independence Group in the Dáil brought forward a motion, calling for a debate and discussion on Ireland's migration policy, and they were rounded upon from the government benches, and they were called every name under the sun. They were called xenophobic, they were called racist, they were accused of dog whistling and what have you. And the government went so far.
Dog whistling, xenophobia, racist. Dude, nobody cares about these names anymore. I don't give a shit about these names. Do Irish people give a bollocks about these names? Lads, no one. If you call me xenophobic, I don't give a bollocks, lads. I couldn't care less, man. Oh, I'm xenophobic. These are just things you make up to discredit people. I'm pretty sure the CIA made up the word conspiracy theorist. The CIA also created the word far right to discredit people, right? So right wing. So they make up these words to discredit people to push their own narrative.
To bring their own counter motion, welcoming the numbers of migrants coming to this country. Simon Harris now sounds like he's singing off their hymn sheet.
I'm not so sure about that. I mean, you can...
It's almost word for word the same thing. We need to have a discussion. And then when people were critical of
discussion,
he said people are trying to shut down the debate, which is exactly what they were saying.
I know, but there's a context. And there are some parties and there are some individuals, both within and outside the Dáil, who have an ideological position on migration. And it shouldn't be only that. We have a system.
If one of them used the language that Simon Harris was now using, they would be accused of racism and xenophobia.
But in the first instance...
Is Simon Harris racist?
The Tánaiste...
Is Simon Harris racist? I just laugh whenever I hear that word, like racist or like xenophobia. It's just funny. It's like, does anyone care about that shit? Like, people cared 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Nobody cares now, guys. That's something you shouldn't care about. Use your brain and logic rather than just stupid buzzwords. He's this. Like, what? You sound like a 14-year-old. Like, actually use your brain and logic. Morons. Unreal.
Firmly supports the system that we have. And it's very clear that he and all of us in government, and I think across the opposition benches by and large as well, want to see that fair system that treats people equally and with respect, but the system needs to work, and you can't have a system that allows people to remain on indefinitely and doesn't have an exit strategy for them, that you leave open then a situation where those who would want to exploit a situation like that from a racist perspective and from an ideological perspective sort of suggest that the state is at sixes and sevens in terms of migration policy.
Mick, is it telling that Simon Harris keeps talking about the numbers of people migrating to this country as opposed to the number of asylum seekers?
Well, for example, Kieran, you asked Timmy about migration, and Timmy launched straight into the international protection system. He did not talk about migration, he talked about international protection. International protection system accounts for somewhere between 10 and 15% of people coming into this country annually. It is down by 40% this year. That's nearly half, down by 40%.
Because the NGOs are losing money because Donald Trump is taking money from them. That's why they're down 40%.
And yet, that is the small element of migration that everybody is concentrating on. And why? One of the reasons is they don't want to face up to the fact that migration has been, there's about 1 in every 5 workers were not born in this country. Migration, to the greatest extent, has been here to serve the economy, both in terms of filling jobs and providing services. Now, we should have a discussion about it if people are uneasy at the level of it. That discussion should not focus on the relatively small number that come here seeking international protection who are fleeing war of some sort or another. Neither should it focus on the very small number who should be deported and who will be deported, but maybe there's an issue over how long it takes to deport them.
Whenever I hear, 100% ethnically Irish people like myself or whatever talk about, immigration on national television, they're the most cucked people ever. They're like, yeah, immigrants are good. Then whenever I hear like black guys or like Arabic guys or like whatever, people from Latin America, Brazilian people, they're like, oh yeah, there's too many immigrants, get them all out of here. Like, it's just hilarious. Like, foreign people, like, dude, people from Eastern Europe that I know, family and stuff, they're like, get everybody out of here. Like, it's only Irish people that are like pro-immigration. You know what I mean? It's actually a really funny, logical thing to think about. You couldn't find a guy from Eastern Europe that thinks immigration is good. You just couldn't, lads. It's just so stupid. Like,
if you're going to talk about migration, you talk about how are we going to change how we live? How are services going to change? How is the economy going to change? This focus that there is an international protection is feeding straight into this whole area where people are trying to generate anger and resentment against a very small number of people.
Is it not also the case, though, Mick, that people look at the breakdown and they see, right, 50% of the people who do come to this country, they're either Irish citizens returning home, they're from the UK or they're from the EU. There's not much you can do about any of them. I don't think anybody will want to turn
unless you leave the EU.
Of the other half, the overwhelming majority of them are people from the rest of the world, as it's classified by the CSO, but who come here with visas. They come here to work at the HSE or they're coming to work in tech or pharma. And people realise that you'd be undermining the economy were you to try and turn off that tap.
No, I've explained this many times before. Like I said, the most important thing is the numbers. Secondly, nobody really cares about the Filipino guy coming over who's a heart surgeon, the Indian guy who's like a heart surgeon, brain surgeon maybe, right? They're helping fill these roles. There's a few thousand roles. People have a massive issue with hundreds of thousands of people coming from the African plains, the Serengeti. They don't speak English. They don't even know how to use a bathroom. They never use electricity in their life. They're coming from war-torn parts of Liberia, Somalia, East Nigeria, flipping all these places. They could be ISIS-trained combatants. They could be our adversaries. Like, there could be flipping people coming from Syria, from Afghanistan. They're goat herders. They've never even seen a white woman before in their life. And then they're coming over here and they're attacking our women and children. That's what people have a massive issue with, guys. A massive issue. Rather than, a few hundred people, for bringing in competent people that are helping fill certain roles. We're not doing that. We have an open borders, tyrannical, corrupt government in this country, and it's destroying the country from the inside out.
Exactly. And it only leaves one place to go.
Precisely, and that place is the smallest cohort of those coming into the country. And you could argue, within that cohort, those who are accepted for protection are a cohort that are fleeing war and oppression of one kind or another. Yet, that is the cohort.
So then do we need to have a conversation, if we're going to have a conversation about migration, which is what Simon Harris wants, a conversation about those other people, the rest of the world who come here on visas?
For example, Kieran, there's a new system they're looking into work visas, and from what I can gather, they're looking into how they can expand work visas. So if we're doing that on one hand, and if we're throwing all the blame and a very small number of people on the other. Where is it going? People don't want to have the awkward conversation. If people are uneasy with the level of migration they want it reduced, there has to be a conversation about how you go about that. This notion that you go about it, for instance, by stopping people coming in who are fleeing oppression, I think that would reduce what Ireland's supposed to be from in all sorts of ways. So either have the conversation or don't, but do not blame the smallest cohort who are vulnerable, most of them, in terms of why they want to be here.
Matt, 125,000 people moved to this country last year. Now, that's often the figure cited. People left the country as well, so it's a kind of 60-odd thousand net increase. Is that too much?
So I think
those numbers are massaged. They're up around 475,000. Like, this is over the last few years. There's hundreds of thousands of people pouring into the country. We have an open borders, corrupt, tyrannical government. I've said this before. Nobody would disagree with that. Open borders, corrupt, tyrannical government that are flooding the country with people from God knows where. We don't have any background checks on these people. There is no consulate in flipping Somalia. They don't even have a government. How are we supposed to background check people from Somalia that could be Al-Shabaab waiting to kill us all? How do we do that, Mr. Kieran Cuckoldry?
Figures a bit higher than that in terms of net terms. I'm conscious when we're talking about migration that this week we could be talking about multiple fatalities in Drogheda as a result of a dastardly act, which I hope those responsible for are brought to justice.
What about the 10-year-old just last week that was sexually assaulted by a 26-year-old migrant? What about her? Because nobody died in the Drogheda lighting on the carpet of the iPass Centre. You know, he was just an interior designer, I heard. He just wanted to get rid of the carpet. That's a joke. Right, obviously that could have caused people to be killed, but at the same time, what about the actual 10-year-old girl, this pedophile hunter guy that was looking for kids to sexually assault? What about her? I haven't heard one word of that girl. That's just crazy stuff.
And I think that needs to be condemned universally. But I also think it's very important that commentators and politicians don't equate anybody who raises concerns around immigration with people who carry out acts such as that or who would condone them. I think it is really important. One of the issues that's raised with me constantly is this sense that you can't say anything, you can't raise a criticism of the immigration policy whatsoever because you're branded as a...
I can. I don't give a shit, and neither should you. The Irish public should not care about this. Guys, have a backbone. The women are more masculine in this country than the men. Way more. I hear women talking about it all the time, texting me and everything. The men, it's just we're cocked. We're cocked.
Races, and I think that's well.
And I think we've all gotten to the point where we accept that this is government policy, and whether it's health or education or transport or
so
justice,
to answer your question,
is
black and white. We do not have the capacity in terms of housing. Just as one example, to deal with the increases in population that we've seen.
Okay,
now,
so
that's not
there you go. And Kieran Cuckoldry cuts him off. See? Right there. This is from the man himself. This is the minister for, immigration or whatever. Whatever the hell he's a minister for. He knows the inside out to this. Yeah, we don't have the capacity to handle all these people. That's it. Right there. That's it. Done. End of conversation. Stop bringing people in.
You look at the figures, though, the breakdown. Yeah. Where does the reduction come from?
Okay.
You can't, you tell me. So we went through it. We won't bamboozle people with numbers again. You've got Irish people from the UK, EU citizens, visa holders, asylum seekers. Which number are you going to try and reduce?
Okay, so, first of all, we need to build the capacity that I've spoken about in terms of housing, in terms of education, and we need to do that in terms of for the domestic Irish population as well as for people moving in. So the IPAS system does need to be fixed. And just in terms of one of the reasons why so much of the debate revolves around the IPAS system is because it is completely dysfunctional. Because you have a system where the process is not working.
100%. The guy in City West got a deportation order 8 months prior. Then he sexually assaulted a 10-year-old. He shouldn't have even been in the country. He could have been flipping ISIS. You don't even know. These people don't know, guys. I'm telling you right now, they do not know, man. Our government do not know who the hell is coming in here.
Processing time for applications has taken far too long. The decisions, when they're made, are not enforced, and government do not know where the vast majority of people who have been unsuccessful are, whether they're still in the state or not. And above all, the big...
Wait, hold on. He kind of glossed over that. We don't know where the people are that got deportation orders. They could be waiting to kill us all. What is this? This is a joke.
The single criticism that you hear across communities all over this state is that they have been ignored in terms of what's happening in their areas, in terms of accommodation centres, and they're watching on as a small number of people are making absolute fortunes. All of those are legitimate criticisms, and none of them are directed at people who are coming here seeking international protection.
Legitimate criticisms, but they're not an answer to the question that I asked.
So you have to get all,
in which category would you try and reduce the number?
So you have to get all of those things right. Then when it comes to employment and student visas, for example, you have to have a consideration beyond what big corporations want. So in terms of employment visas, yes, we need people in key services, key industries. There's lots of different sectors that are crying out for more workers, and they're looking at employment visas as the only way to fill that. But you can't just allocate visas and not have a plan in terms of housing those people who are coming here. And that's the difficulty, because the pressures create the type of divisions that we've seen. Likewise, so we have the student visas, and international students are critically important to university life and to the success of universities. But you can't have a huge increase in student visa numbers, which we've seen over the past number of years, and not have an eye to the fact that there's also a student accommodation crisis. And the fact
there was a student accommodation crisis when I was in college, like 5 or 6 years ago. There was a massive one. I remember some of the lads, or back in this is 10 years ago, back in 2015 I started college. I remember there was a housing crisis. One of the lads was living in a hostel. And then we had these rich women, these really rich girls. They were like, they were same age as me, like 20 or something like that, 19. And they were actually living in a 5-star hotel or a 4-star hotel in Galway. And I was like, lads, like, where are you living? Like, oh, well, our daddy puts us in the 4-star hotel. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. I was like, I'm living at home, like, in a shit box with a shit car, 2007 Toyota. And you're there living in the 4-star hotel? Oh, yeah. She said, well, there's no accommodation. I said, how much does that cost per month? 10,000 or something, they said. I said, your dad is spending €10,000 a month for your accommodation. Their dad was Swiss or Austrian, I believe. Super rich, old money. 1930s money. You know what I mean? Like, big money. So, like, it was just great. The housing accommodation in Galway is a disaster. Don't come to Galway, lads. If you're living anywhere in the world, do not come. It's a disaster.
That there's a whole cottage industry built up around what are called English language courses. So you have to
reduce the number of visas that we issue to workers and students.
You have to deal with all of these things in the round.
But that's the simple answer to the question I asked. That's the column you would seek to reduce.
I think you look at each individually. You look at where the pressures are on the system, and the system is under pressure, and you put forward policies to address them. And you recognise that at the moment there is no policy, there is no plan, there is no strategy. It is. Yes, we all recognise that workers coming from other parts of the world play an integral part in critical sectors, but we also have to deal with the outworkings of that.
So one thing here, Matt's point about people are saying we can't say anything, you're called racist.
I'm done trying out the next best AI thing for work. Monday.com is a whole different animal. Marketing.
That on one level is grand, but when people say you can't say anything, and then you look at what is being said, you look on social media, you look on some outlets that are obsessed with immigration, and what's being said does not bear any relationship to reality. It is not based.
Everything I say is based in reality. Mick Cole, you daft bollocks.
It's on facts. It is based on impressions. It's based on pandering. It's based on attempting to ensure that people become resentful in that by some of these outlets and on social media. So this notion that you can't say anything, I don't accept that at all. But what you should not be able to say is to spread lies, which we have seen constantly. On the most basic level, the Gardaí every so often reference this, and that's purely in relation to crime. That happens right across the board. So yes, there should be absolutely a conversation, but a conversation based entirely on facts. And one other thing, in terms of communities, yes, communities are under pressure for services, absolutely everywhere. But what we don't hear about is the large number of communities that don't react badly to people within their community being put there, and I know plenty of them myself. And so we have to take that into account as well. They are silent on it, but they're the ones who are also bearing the burden, but they're doing so without reacting badly to it.
When he says it should be based in facts, what he means is he doesn't want any other citizen journalists to talk about it. He wants the mainstream media to have a monopoly over the information coming out to the world in regards to immigration.
Timmy, should we be reducing the number of visas we issue to workers and students?
No, I don't think so. Absolutely not.
Oh my
Quite frankly,
God.
if our economy is to grow and develop along the lines that it needs to, we need workers to come from outside. We need to have an effective.
Where are we going to put all these people?
We've got to continue.
Which ultimately kind of boils down to,
I
doesn't
accept
it?
that, but the pressure is there.
So they only care about the accommodation, the living. They don't talk about the culture being ruined, the heritage being ruined, the watering down of Irish society. You know, there's other multiple factors that I talk about on my channel that not just matter about housing. Well, we got to house all these people. If we had 10 million houses more, we could house 10 million Chinese people. No, like I wouldn't want 10 million Chinese people to come to Ireland. No way.
On the housing system, and we are addressing that.
Bizarre.
We are coming to terms with that. And it's interesting that poor Sister Stanislaus Kennedy has just passed away yesterday when she set up the migrant organisation that she did. And I watched her on television last night, or a clip from a bygone time, where she recognised how important that migration was to the development of our own society. And I think we've got to look at from that perspective and look at the richness of that interaction of people coming to be part of our country and settling down and broadening our society. But also there are people prepared to come here on visas to do work, quite frankly, that we don't have people to do in our society, whether it be at the very high-end level or to do the more service level work rate. People came before.
I don't want to say it, but it sounds like you profoundly disagree with Simon Harris then when he says migration numbers are too high.
No, that's why I pivoted towards the issue that is has generated most of the debate. And I don't want to deter from what Mick has said, but that's where the vast amount of the misinformation that's in circulation, for sure.
Yeah, but when
there are people with a
numbers,
I want to make this point. There are people with a racist bent for whom somebody of a different skin colour is a problem. But they'll never talk about it. They will always say, oh, well, we need the doctors, we need the nurses, we need the care workers. But it's the unvetted males that rock up and they're going to do the devil and all to our women and our children. They're using the asylum seeker process, because it has been broken for some time. They're using that as a soft in to influence, as Mick has said, people who maybe aren't fully aware of what's going on, haven't.
Oh, so they're saying that you guys are all stupid, you don't understand what's going on in the iPass Centre, so people like me, idiots that are racist, that hate other people of skin colour, okay, I'm now manipulating you all. These people are liars. They're absolute scumbags, guys, to even suggest that. These people, let me tell you, go look at their friend group. Go look at the people that they talk to, hang out with, associate with. Go look at the people. It's all flipping their own people, okay? Which isn't bad. I'm not against Irish people sticking together. I want Irish people to stick together. But I'm saying they are pandering to the public. They don't care as long as they're making money. That's it, guys. The money is their god. As long as they're making money, they don't give a bollocks about who comes into the country.
Through, but now they're on to, it's the gateway to racism for those that have an ideological position. And in my view, we've got to address that. And I believe the government is addressing that. But no, I don't believe that we should be looking at some kind of a cap on migration, which is part of a system-wide approach that's a response to the demands and needs of a growing economy.
Even if one of the consequences to that, to issuing those visas, is the continuation of the housing crisis, or the elongation.
The sort of corollary of that, quite frankly, if you take it to its nth degree, is that those companies which are driving the economy, which are providing significant resources to allow us to build infrastructure, to build the houses, can I just finish on this, Matt? That they may not see Ireland as a suitable location. And I know the work that the IDA and Enterprise Ireland and others do, but one of the biggest questions they have in terms of attracting companies is, where's the workforce coming from? You're at full employment.
But there are caps on employment visas per sector. The difficulty is...
Yeah, you can't just bring 10 million people from Uzbekistan or flipping 10 million people from Azerbaijan. Like, this is ridiculous. We don't want all these influx of people coming in, guys. This is just plain and simple immigration status, but they don't want to talk about it because they're making money from it. That's it. They don't give a shit about being altruistic. You think these guys care about if there's loads of people, multicultural people in the country? They don't give a bollocks. They don't give a shit. They're making money. That's it, guys. They're making money. They don't give a bollocks.
That the only consideration in the cap is the gaps within the employment source, which of course is very important, but it shouldn't be the only consideration when you're actually identifying how many workers the state can accommodate. You have to take into account the capacity of the state of services of housing, because if you don't, then you end up with the situation that we have in many parts of the state. Or not only, well, on one hand, you're encouraging and welcoming people who are coming to work in our health service, and then on the other hand, we have entire hospitals in Sydney that are made up of Irish staff who are left because of the
turn around to those. I know you say you can't kind of operate
well.
government policy at the whim of big tech or big pharma, but big tech and big pharma and those big corporations, as you describe them, pay an awful lot of money into the coffers here, and an awful lot of Sinn Féin spending policy is based on that money being in those coffers.
I'm not discount the need of those sectors. I'm saying it's not the only consideration. There is no other area of public policy that you would allow to be dictated at the whim of one vested interest, regardless of who it is. You have to have a holistic overview.
You also acknowledge
He's cooking. That's true, 100%.
that is an area you'd like to see a reduction in the number of people coming here. Now, I don't think you want to see a reduction in the number of people working in our hospitals.
No, absolutely not.
Which means that you're going to turn around to those companies and say, we are just, listen, I'm sorry, we don't want to do it, but we don't have enough housing. You cannot hire the software engineers you need to. And at least be honest about it.
At the moment, a lot of those companies are finding it difficult to get staff precisely because the staff, even if they're able to employ them, have nowhere to live. So you have to take into account all factors. If you don't, then you are creating the space for very nasty actors to actually manipulate people's concerns and to turn it into racist tendencies. So
that's true too. But if the message goes out that Ireland is full, that we're not able to manage a greater level of migration, that we're not able to accommodate more workers, that sends a very negative signal to the wave of investment, which has driven this.
No, it's not. That should absolutely be the message put out to the world. Please stop coming here. We've too many goddamn people. We've no houses for our own people, for our own Irish citizens, which means that you have a passport. Like, come on, guys, come on. This is just easy rhetoric to break down. They have no standpoint whatsoever.
Economy for generations now. So
and that's not what I said at all.
I know, but it's just the nuanced point that if you say or do anything that seeks to distract from the path that you're on in terms of a growth, you're in trouble. And I mean, we see other economies across. You see the stagnation in other economies where their birth rates are low, where they're not attractive in terms of inward migration, and the impact that has on a stagnation in economic activity. So we've got to be really careful here. Yes, there are tensions. There are competitive tensions, but I think we have to work to build the infrastructure, and we've got to continue to do that.
But you're not doing that.
No, but we are not.
Yeah, they're not building any infrastructure. This country is lost in the next 5 years if you don't shut it all down. I love you all. If you want to support me so I can help support you, push back against the mainstream media, hit the join link underneath the video. Become a member today for just €3 per month. Can really help support me, go a long way. And I'll see you guys in the next one, man. Peace.